Exactly, right? It was like it wasn't even it was all the same decade too. It wasn't even just like
No, it was
decades apart. It was all the same decade,
yeah, that same 90s decade.
right? Because that version came out 93 and then, I think Whitney performed it mid 90s, 96, and then Diana Ross had
I
that
did it after.
98 album, right? So it was the record of the decade technically,
No, it was. And
right?
and and Martha, she's just truly one of a kind.
Oh, exactly. I truly adore her voice. I think in terms of house vocalists, a lot of people kind of forget her in the conversation, and I'm like, a lot of the dance records that people dance to is responsible from Martha Wash,
Yes, indeed.
right? Like we kind of forget that, and I'm like, Martha Wash, remember that voice.
Yes, a voice to be reckoned with. So much respect to Sylvester for putting her on.
Exactly, right? And I really do hope that we get like another vocalist like that someday. Like a top tier power vocalist like that. Oh my God.
Yeah, no, same here. I mean, with the way music has been, like we need to get that to come back. I mean, a lot of things have come back, but like that powerhouse vocal list, we need that to come back as well.
Exactly, because again, no one was singing like that. You know what I mean? No one was adding their own voice to those type of records that were pop, but they were just big. You know what I mean?
Yep.
She had the voice that was carrying all of the house records back then, all the dance records, right? Like I can't even say house because she did everything. She just did all of dance music,
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, like
right?
that whole period, it was primarily just dance music, and based on the ties that she had to Black Box and the CNC Music Factory, yeah, she was like stuck in that box. Even though she still had a chance to showcase other elements of her music. You know.
Exactly, right? And even like the fact she got to work with Brian Morgan of SWV,
Yep,
you know what I
that
mean? Like
too.
a lot too, right? And like she was able to kind of bring in like a funky R&B new Jackie type vibe to the album, right?
And around that time frame, that was still a major deal. So to see her contribute to the elements of New Jack Swing, I thought that was definitely cool.
Exactly. And I personally think she picked the right person by picking Brian Morgan to do that. Because Brian Morgan was like a peer when he was making the SWV records.
Right. Yeah, he just literally took the world by storm. I mean, that whole album with the contributions that he added, I thought it was like phenomenal.
Exactly. And it's crazy because Brian Morgan follows me on Instagram, and I remember I liked so many of his posts because I follow him and I watched everything that he does. And then
Right.
when he followed me one day and I was like, Brian Morgan? Like the actual Brian Morgan? Like, you know what I mean? Like shit like that. When you have someone that respects you for like showcasing the music, that's another big deal too that I really
Yep.
appreciate. You know what I mean? Especially for people like Brian Morgan to be like, yo, I see you sharing the love like that and I respect that. And it's like, no, just thank you for making records like that, bro. Like, thank you. You know what I mean? Like, that's what
And
I love.
and like for him, when I heard "Let Me Love You" by Layla Hathaway, I was just blown away.
Oh,
So like aside from his work with SWB and all the other artists, like to see him still do his thing after "It's About Time" went platinum plus, and to see him come back with "Let Me Love You," yeah, he definitely
you know,
showed he was truly the man.
you know what's so funny? As soon as you say that, I haven't heard that song in a year. There was a moment I was playing that song to the ground. And now that you brought it back up again, I am going to have to be running that song back up again.
Yeah, no, you got to. I mean, and it's the album opener on a moment.
It's Layla's vocals that just make it so tantalizing too. Like just everything about that song.
Yeah, I mean from start to finish, like even like because I know you have the video version and then you have the album version, and when you hear the album version, it's like, oh snap, there's more to this.
Exactly. And Brian's vocals, his because he did the backgrounds for that song. Like the
Yes, he
backgrounds on that
did,
song, incredible.
and people sleep on him as a vocalist.
Exactly. See, I already have that song in my head. Let me love you for ocean. Oh, see, I love
Hey,
that song. Oh, I have to start playing that song. See,
yeah,
but again,
you got to.
Brian's vocals make that song too, right? And even he did
Yeah,
what's the other he did a song for Nicole Ray too that has his background vocals in it too.
yeah.
I can't remember.
I gotta revisit the album and see what it was.
I can't see. That's the song. Missy and Mocha's on
Oh,
it.
Mocha. Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, the second single
The second
off.
single. Yeah,
Yeah,
he
the
did the
second
second.
single.
Yeah. I think he's in the video too for that one.
Probably is. It's and it's funny you said that. I remember when the video came out back in its original inception, and I haven't seen a video in quite some time.
It is a weird
So
video,
now
but yeah.
I gotta revisit that video.
The video was a bit weird, but the director of that video is he's super dope. Christopher Erskine. He's done a bunch of different videos that I love. So
Yeah, he's definitely done a tremendous amount of videos during his like heyday of directing music videos.
yeah, because he did like not even just like hip hop and R&B videos, but I think he did like Vitamin C's video back then. He did. I'm pretty sure he did like a Celine Dion video too back then too. So he was keeping himself,
He was all over the place.
yeah. And like, his directing skill, like he did Nicole Ray's video, he did Keith Sweat's video back then. Um,
Yeah,
do you
he did
remember
keep the video.
he did that song with Snoop Dogg? He did that video.
Yeah, come get with me.
Yeah, he did that video. And do you remember Beverly? You came along?
Yes, yes, I do. Yeah, after seeing her do work with Babyface as well as Blackstreet to see her do her own thing in '99, I thought that video was cool.
He did that video too.
Yeah, and I remember seeing his name on the credits now that you mentioned it. When the video came out in '99, I remember seeing his name in the credits.
No, I love. See, that's another artist that I wish had like the opportunity to release an album because Beverly, that record was so huge, in my opinion.
Yeah, and not only that, but all the sessions that she did, like that led up to her getting that push with the song, and it's just sad that the album didn't go any further, or the
I
chance to to record the album and put it out to the masses.
technically the album was already recorded and there's promo versions that exist, but apparently like a commercial release was canned for whatever. Like that's the thing that pisses me off is like there's so much records that could have came out in the 90s
Yep.
that could have changed the game right now, but the labels were very different back then.
Yeah, and not only that, but I realized the label that she was on, Yabium, that Face and his former spouse Tracy operated together, that was always going through some like ever changes. If you look back between like the beginning of when the label was founded
Yeah.
up until the end of the decade, like they went through changes. Too much
Yeah.
growth changes.
No, because there was a lot of acts that were signed to Yab Young. There was Shia who did I Can't Help
I
It
can't
for
help it. Yep.
Happy. She was supposed to come out with something. Beverly was supposed to come out.
Yeah,
Uh
Tenderoni.
yep. And then Third Story was supposed to come out under Yab Yum too, I believe.
Yeah, and they had two singles.
And one of them was from Elektra and then the other one was from Def Jam, I believe, right?
But the second album was tied to Def Jam. But
Yeah.
If Ever and Party Tonight, that was during their time via Elektra.
Yeah, see like they had their like I don't know what they were up to if I'm being honest with you because they realistically could have had some success on that label.
No, I agree. Honestly speaking, I just believe that it just has something to do with precise politics because if you look at it too, Babyface's best friend, D-Rock, Daryl Simmons, he had a distribution deal with Elektra as well. The company Silent Partner Productions.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was under Elektra, and he had the original inception of Destiny's Child on deck.
Mm.
I just feel that it was a major label like political problem because they
Yeah,
and Daryl said it like that they dropped him. They didn't drop, DC. They dropped him and his company.
yeah, exactly.
So
Yeah.
it
And
just
yeah, Elektra was always on something too. One of the labels I would say that fascinates me always is Elektra because the amount of people that they've dropped over the years.
yeah. I mean, and it was so much transitioning and whatnot too because um East West ended up coming under the Elektra brand.
Exactly. And a lot of people were under the East-West wing, right? Like it was Billy
Yep.
Lawrence and Vogue.
And Vogue was on it.
Um, MC Light was on it
Yeah,
too,
she
right?
she she ended up coming under it after First Priority had, you know, kind of like left Atlanta behind, and with Sylvia being at Elektra, she took along MC
Yeah.
Light with her.
Yeah, and even though Sylvia Rhone knew what she was doing, she didn't really know what she was doing.
True.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I just feel like no, but like because when I think of Elektra, like there's so many records that could have came out. Like there was Gina Thompson's second album that
Yep.
was supposed to come out, Adina Howard's second album that was supposed to come out. Uh, Shia was supposed to have something on Elektra too, actually, because I think her partnership was with Yab Yum and Elektra.
Yes, it was.
Yeah, so she was supposed to have something out. They signed Destiny's Child before they went to Columbia. You know what I mean? Like Elektra had its moments and it could have had its potential, but it was just so messy.
Yeah, and then not only that, but during that whole period too, the music, you know, conglomerates just kept changing as well. I mean, it wasn't just Elektra and their parent, but you
Yeah,
look at Polygram.
yeah,
They went through, the utmost.
that's also true. Yeah, and especially like now that you're saying polygram, I'm thinking of like 90s towards like the end of Motown where like Andre Harrell had it for like 6 or 7 months and then he was just like, I don't know what else to do with it.
Yeah, because I mean, Motown, if you look at it, they were and it's funny we're talking about Motown now.
Yeah.
I celebrated Motown on the radio this week.
That's why I was like, I had to bring that up. That's why I was like, I want to see your thoughts on it.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, leaving Detroit and going to LA, I don't believe that was the right thing to do at that given moment because they weren't able to stay within. Because if you look at it, a lot of big artists, flagship artists, left. You know what I mean? I
Yeah,
mean, you had some that came back, but like the soul artists that really were bringing it, they left and never came back. Marvin left, never came back.
yeah,
The Jackson family left and never came back. Lady
yeah,
T, same thing. Gladys Knight and the Pips, like they never came back.
yeah. And even like when they had like all of these artists back in the 90s, like I was watching this interview that Rebe Jackson had done back in like 2004.
Mm-hmm.
She was signed to Motown when Gerald Busby was running Motown, which I didn't even know that.
Oh yeah, because he ran the company from '88 to the tail end of '95, because then that's when they brought in Harrell to succeed him. But yeah, I mean
Yeah, so
he was there for almost a decade. He was there almost.
yeah, so Rebe was signed to the label, and when she had gotten signed, she was saying that like as soon as Gerald Busby had left, like Shawnee's left. She ended up leaving too because she wasn't unsure of like what the direction of Motown was going to be. So she ended up leaving. Like a lot of artists ended up just not being able to put something out, or they just ended up leaving the label because of its uncertainty at that time.
Yeah, and I believe that's why my main man Eddie M winded up leaving too, because he was signed to Mojazz.
Mm,
When I had him on the show, we were talking about his journey working with Wayman Tinsdale, and
yeah,
he because he was heavily involved on Wayman's first album with Mojazz and Motown, and he mentioned that he was also an artist at the time, but because of the whole misunderstanding with where the label was heading, he ended up leaving and just doing his own thing.
yeah. And like even though they came back and they had a little bit of their success with like Terrell Hicks, Shades, et cetera, there was still a lot of issues going on, especially with like them not even having the name Motown and heading into 2000.
No, yeah. I mean, after pretty much when he left, when Andre had, parted ways with the company, it just was not the same. And even though they tried to revamp over and over, it just didn't really do justice. And if you look at the label now, it's just not the same. I mean, so much that's why Stevie ultimately left.
No, exactly. And like there's one artist that was signed to Motown back in 98, Deborah Morgan. She had it was the worst time for her, I would say, because Motown was already hanging by a thread when she had
Yep.
signed. So, then she had been working with Vassell Benford, who pretty much did the whole entire album. And you have the album come out, you have one single that comes off and it's top 30 R&B, and then that's it.
Only for her to come back a couple years later, going into the 21st century, and with Dance with Me.
Exactly. And she returned to the first label that she signed with. You know what I mean? Like she wasn't on to a third and new label. She went back
Yeah,
home technically,
Atlantic. Yep.
right? Like they were like, "Oh, we're actually positive about the record and like we're gonna push this out," because she had completed it before they had sent it out to Atlantic. Because I think she was using it out to shop for distribution deals with.
Yes. Yeah, she did
Yeah.
go and shop for distribution.
Yeah, so she had that album like already set by that time. Because I think she had wanted to take it to Motown, but the executives at Motown felt that it was too white for the audience.
And it's funny you said too white. I did some homework a while back on The Godfather, Gerald, not Gerald, Clarence Avant. I mean, who at the time was working with Gerald as well as Andre when Gerald left.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you know this, but during the time that 98 Degrees was coming into the fold, he
Yeah.
didn't like that. Clarence did not like that, and like told Andre straight up, no, don't. So yeah, for you to say that like the Deborah Morgan record was too white, he didn't want 90 Degrees on the label. Clarence
Okay,
didn't
but
want.
that's Clarence Avant. So if I don't know. I feel like because if Clarence Avon's telling me that it's not appropriate for my label, I will deck them off my label. You know what I mean?
Right. I mean, hey, I mean, look at his former partner in crime, Churro. I mean, Boys to Men had to record "I'll Make Love to You" or else.
Exactly, right. And when Clarence knew, he knows his fucking music. He
Yes, he
knows what it
does.
will sell. So the fact that like Andre was like, and I know they're tight. So like I'm probably just saying stuff just for saying stuff, but it's like if I was Andre Harrell, I would be at my beck and call for fucking for Clarence Avant because I know that at the end of the day I'm going to be paid and Clarence is going to be paid.
Right. No, same here. I mean, because that's the man, and he's been very instrumental in a lot of careers, including Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis, who did have ties to Motown with the artists they
Yes.
worked with.
Yeah, like Clarence Avant was everywhere and pretty much every
Yeah.
thank you notes will have his name on it.
Even with Michael Jackson, I mean, he was, the man behind the Bad Tour.
Exactly. Like he was just like watching the Black Godfather. I was just so mind blown at all of the stuff I never thought would be possible without him, which is 99% of black music that I've listened to,
Yes, indeed. Yeah.
right? And it's you don't think of it until you watch something like that. You're like, Clarence Avant is realistically a Malcolm X, but in music. He was
Yeah, I
fighting for
mean,
artistic liberty.
and he was truly a force to be reckoned with.
Exactly. And everybody knew if you don't listen to Clarence, you pay the price.
Yeah.
Like he was that person. Like he didn't have to be tough. He had the not his knowledge is what made him tough, and his passion was what made him tough.
And the cool thing about him was to see Jimmy and Terry still give the ultimate respect that was due. I just thought that was so amazing because um when Taboo had parted ways from Sony because of the whole, you
Hmm.
know, changes and them not needing the
Yeah.
label, Taboo went under Polygram, and for the first 2 years they were under A&M. But then he got a chance to become a chairman and work along with Gerald. And I
Yeah.
remember I watched it. I watched an episode of a video, so and Jamie and Terry were on it, and they shouted out Clarence for getting that position at
Mhm.
Motown.
See, like, and that's mutual respect because Jimmy and Terry, like, they're the biggest producers in the game.
Yep.
Even though they're not making as much music as they were before, if you just say the name, you already know who they are.
Yeah. Done deal.
So the fact that, like, like, people still pay attention to Clarence Avon is such a huge thing, and they still pay respects to him. Because a lot of people forget that too. Like, I feel like a lot of people forget that Clarence is a motivational piece of what music has become and how much it's diversified and how much it's kind of blown up into the culture now.
Yeah, Clarence was a game changer. He was definitely one that changed the game, and not just black music, but also popular music and just the whole existence of what the industry would become towards the end of the 20th century, going into where we are today.
Exactly, right? And it's still very sad that he's no longer with us physically, but spiritually, I hope, he still blesses us with everything. You know what I mean? Like in terms of his advice and all the stuff that he's left behind for us.
Oh yeah, absolutely. He's definitely the man, and you could never sleep on his greatness because like the fact that he's done so much, like we said earlier, for so many artists, and even being instrumental in their touring as well as their various other projects tied to the world of music, like that speaks a lot of volume.
Exactly. And he wasn't even a vulture. He was out here being like, okay, like, this is my he considered them to be like his artists, right? He was like, this is my person. They want to be like if there's something that needs to be taken care of, I'm going to be taking care of it.
Right, and he did. I mean, again, to see him be the man to ensure that Michael Jackson had a successful official first tour, because we all know when he toured previously, it was with his brothers, and that's all good. It was cool, but to see him tour as Michael Jackson was great, and to see Clarence Avant be the man behind that first tour, I thought that
Exactly.
was just outstanding.
No, and especially because this is the bad tour we're talking about, right? I believe.
Yep, yes, indeed. Yep,
The
yep.
bad
His
the bad tour
first
was
tour.
already that bad tour was already on fire even before that, like, what, even its announcement, when that announcement came out, everybody was just like, you know it's gonna be a good show.
Yeah.
The fact that Clarence was like, behind it, that's what made it the biggest successful tour of his. And I'm
I
pretty sure
mean,
that's why he enjoyed it.
right. And the cool thing about that tour was that it was even noted on the Cosby Show. Like I thought that was cool as hell. Just hear about the bad tour being noted on the Cosby Show.
Exactly, right? Like not everybody would be able to plug a tour like that, right? Like
No,
especially if it's Michael Jackson, you know what I mean? And
I
like
mean
if I'm being
he's
honest,
bad.
if Clarence Avant really stuck through with all of his tours, I feel like Michael would have loved touring America a tiny bit.
Yes,
A
way
tiny
more.
bit. A tiny bit. I won't say a full bit of America, but I feel like he would love to do tiny bits of America if Clarence was behind him.
I agree. I believe because of the fact that Clarence ended up having to leave Sony and going to Polygram, that also was like part of the reason why we didn't get to see that happen going forward. But at the same time, it's like, seasons change, so people wind up doing their own thing and going in different directions. So, I mean, we get it. It just, you're definitely spot on that if Clarence did stick around, he would have definitely been doing more dates here in the States.
Right? Like I would have seen like the Dangerous tour maybe have a couple of US dates in between, or the History tour would have had like a couple of US dates if Clarence was still doing what he was doing with Sony, right? But again, seasons change and all that stuff, and it happens for that reason, right? And
Right.
Clarence used his expertise on everybody at that point.
And the thing with Michael, it's like he blew up And
Exactly.
unfortunately, all we got to see was the tour on HBO.
The Bucharest one, right? That was the only performance. Yeah. Not
Like
many.
both the Dangerous tour and the History tour. Like I only got a chance to see that via HBO.
Yeah, and technically, if things would have been different, we would have had the second HBO thing, the one night only thing that he was planning to do in '95. If his health would have been a little bit different, then we would have had that too. But
Yep.
that was another thing that got canned.
Yeah, it was a lot of it's crazy. It was a lot of different concerts and specials that got canned or got like postponed. Because I remember Billy Joel and Elton John were supposed to do a date via HBO and it didn't happen.
Okay,
It got
see, I feel like that would
canceled.
have been sick though. Like Elton John on HBO, I feel like that would have been like a special concert to watch.
Yeah, no, same here. I was looking forward to that concert. I remember when it came out, this is 98, and all of a sudden they said Billy Joel and Elton John will not be on tonight and ended up having to watch Ambush with Courtney P. Vance. I'm like, no, I want to see that concert.
Hey, at least you got to see the Janet concert back in '98
Yeah,
on.
yeah, I did. Yeah, I did. I saw both that concert and the one in '02 when she was in Hawaii. It's funny. I actually recorded the one in '02. I didn't get to record the Velvet Rope tour. I recorded the Awful
Wow.
One. Yeah, I recorded the Awful One tour on video on VHS.
Oh. See, I wish like I was more conscious back in '98 and in 2002 so I can be like, order HBO, order
Yeah.
HBO. Because we just watched the DVDs back then, right? Because we didn't have
Yep.
that, right? So like when I remember watching The Velvet Rope and I was like, oh God, this is the best show that I've ever seen.
Yeah, I thought it was phenomenal to see her in her element. I mean, she came a mighty long way from doing her first tour at the beginning of the decade, and to see her develop via the Velvet Rope tour, like that was just so cool.
Exactly. And you know what was funny too? Because at that time when I discovered it, this was what, 2000 and I want to say 2005, I discovered Janet. So I was in grade three. So in my house, like all my siblings are playing Jay-Z and Buster. Like, like I was having a little bit of R&B and hip hop education with my siblings.
Hmm.
So when I would watch the Velvet Rope, especially when she does the dance breakdowns, there's certain songs that I hear, I'm like, oh, my sister just played this song yesterday. Like when she did the nasty breakdown and it was like, put your hands where my eyes could see them in the middle. And
Yeah, that additional incorporation that was pretty dope. Usually, when there's a hot song that's out, she will find ways to incorporate. Matter of fact, she did that.
yeah,
She did that recently when she was on tour. She incorporated Bodak Yellow by Cardi B. So she's always
yeah,
finding ways to incorporate what's hot at the time.
exactly. And like even though those records weren't trending at that time, I was still hearing it in my household. So like when I heard her dance that song, I was like, my sister just played the song yesterday. You know what I mean? Like it's just funny how like she was able to kind of be the main center of everything that I've heard growing up.
Yeah, I mean, the way that Michael was during the '80s, Janet would pick up where he left off. She
Exactly.
picked up where her brother left off.
And that's why I love both of them. Those two are my biggest influences in music, I would say. Like Michael and Janet, they're the biggest two people to kind of lay it down in terms of the foundation for myself.
Absolutely. I definitely agree with you on that. Matter of fact, me and my sister, we're big Michael and Janet fans. Matter of
Right?
fact, matter of fact, I'll never forget this when Scream came out, we tried doing the dance steps and all that. And
Oh
we
my
still
God.
and we still do from time to time because we're definitely like Michael and Janet. Every time I look at my sister, I'm like, we're like Michael and Janet.
See, now I'm gonna need you to do the routine on your next interview with somebody.
Oh man, oh now you got me under pressure. Now I gotta learn the steps again.
I'm pretty sure a lot of people would love to see you do the scream routine right now.
Yeah, no, I agree. When I'm out to get with my sister, and we gotta make that happen. You,
Exactly. Yes. No, we have to. We need to see a tribute.
oh, we'll definitely make that happen. I'll definitely let you know when it's gonna happen.
Yes, please. I want front row seats, and I'm gonna bring my dancer friends with me too. We need to watch it.
Well, hey, we'll make it happen, V. We'll definitely make that happen.
Perfect, perfect. But no, it's funny because like Michael Jackson, like you're saying, like everybody listens to him. My dad was a huge fan of Michael. And mind you, he came from Fiji. He came from an island that had a population of 50,000. And he was into
Wow.
Michael Jackson.
Yeah, I mean Michael was the guy. Like, I mean, the Thriller album was just a prime example. I remember I was in summer school and my teacher at the time, she noted how she brought a bunch of copies of Thriller for her students. Like that,
Wow.
yeah, like that's how big Michael was.
See, like, that's the power of music right there. Like, because I wouldn't hear anybody doing that now.
No, no, and the thing is too, like, it's funny. I was in Target a couple of days ago, and I saw a message saying there's a limit on Taylor Swift, Taylor Swift CDs. I'm like, and the wax because they sell both the LPs and the compact discs in the stores,
Yeah.
and I'm like, back in the day there was no limit on Thriller, but there's a limit on Taylor Swift. That's crazy.
Well, you know what? Worked in a record store before, and let me tell you, bro, I wish that the amount of people that grabbed a Taylor, like the amount of people that grabbed like 10 Taylor Swift records, I wish they would grab like the same amount as like Janet Jackson and Erykah
Yep.
Badu and all those other artists that I listen to. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, you got to dig. It's funny. Cal Will said it best. You can't go to shop. You have to go and dig. You
That
have
is
to
word.
you gotta take the time and dig through the crates. You just can't shop for one.
No, and I that's why I love records, man. I love digging for it. I love everything about like record collecting. I just love it. I've done it for like almost 16 years now, I want to say.
Wow.
And I'm only
Yeah, I
27.
right. I had got back into doing it actually when I got into college. And then once I got into radio, it just continued even more.
Exactly. And especially because you're already like an established DJ, right? You're already just
Yeah.
enjoying spinning like the type of records that you would play.
No, absolutely. And that's what I love doing, showcasing not just the records that I love, but the records that really speak to everybody. Because it's so much, and especially being here in Miami, like with being on the radio and so forth, the reason why I did my show was because I wanted to give people options. Because at
Exactly. Yeah.
because at the time when I decided to create Radio Soul, um, the competition that was to be pretty much they were not playing a lot of up tempo records at 8 o'clock at night.
Yeah, it would be mostly like the midnight love type vibe, right?
Uh-huh. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
The quiet storm.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, yeah, that was the thing. Originally, the quiet storm would come on at 10 o'clock, not 7 or 8 o'clock.
I feel like that's a bit early to start that type of vibe, you know what I mean? Like,
Oh yeah.
but
So
I think I'm just used to like it's after 12 and the TV's on and it's BT. It's after midnight. They're gonna start playing all the all
yeah,
the slow jazz and stuff, you know what I mean? Like that's what I'm just used to.
right. I
But
mean,
no,
and
like
usually
don't
that's the time. That's the time to do it. Nighttime is the right time to do it, but not 8 o'clock.
yeah, I want to know who get freaky at 8 o'clock.
Right. Or maybe people want to just listen to Luther Vandross or Gino Vanelli and just have a glass of wine.
I mean, like that's why I became a record collector, bro. I wanted to just do that on the side and not have to bother anybody and be like, "Can you play this at like 5